that quantum level, the most basic ingredients of how this universe works, how creation happens, and so forth. And so the further I went into science, the more I realized that there is such a beauty, a harmony to how this universe is built. And there's so many things that it's like everything was so finely tuned, it was almost too perfect not to be intelligent. So there was this intelligence that I kept seeing throughout the creation, the design of our universe, that to me it just reinforced that there is something beyond, something purposeful. Not just information, but purposeful information that has gone into the creation of this universe. And then as I explored deeply into the ancient wisdom teachings, and in particular, I found my resonance in the Western traditions of Hermetics and alchemy and the Kabbalistic teachings and the Western mystery school tradition. There was, again, this depth that I found around the creation of the universe. And I found that these ancient wisdom teachings were reflecting to us the same teachings and the same concepts that modern science was coming around to again, but from a technological and theoretical and scientific perspective. But the ancient wisdom teachings had that for thousands of years. So I thought, what else do they know that could guide us? Because we are on the precipice of a great leap, technologically, societally, but also within human consciousness. We are on this precipice of a great leap, and we need to make that leap. Now, some of what I want to explore here really is, we've been talking a lot about history, ancient history, and the past. But I'd like to talk about who are we now, and what is the potential of what we're here to become. And yes, where do we come from? But let's talk about where do we come from even beyond this physical. If you think of what is in between the particles that make up the atoms of our being, well, it's empty space, but within that empty space is the quantum field. And that is where we can find that bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, or the spiritual. So metaphysics is really the science of the inward and essential nature of things. This is the original meaning of it, or the study of the first causes of things. So it is beyond just talking about spiritual. It's about really talking about how did it all begin? What is the essence of what we are made of? And in all the ancient spiritual traditions and metaphysical traditions, they say, know thyself. Right? Above the doors of all the ancient mystery schools were the words, know thyself, or thine own self thou must know. Because they believed that we are the microcosm that is a reflection of the macrocosm. If we were made in the image of the divine, or, if we have a holographic replication of the universe within us, which indeed we do, and the more you study our essence, and we have more cells in our body, for example, than there are stars in the universe. We are cosmic beings within us. We're even made of that stardust. And so the reflection of the whole universe is within us. So the more we come to know ourselves, the more we will know the universe. The more we know who we really are at an essential level, the more we can understand the divine source. In the Hermetic teachings are of an oral tradition that is very ancient. And these universal principles that they talk about, the Hermetic principles, they're scientific as well as ancient mystery teachings. And they say the very first principle is that the all is mind. And so in the Hermetic teachings, they say the source is the all. They don't anthropomorphize it or make it into some human-like being. Or some, godlike figure like you see in the pantheons. They say it's just the all, right? And the all is mind, or we could say the all is intelligence, it is consciousness, it is eternal. And this mind, this all creates universes within its own mind, within its own mentality. And there are millions and millions of such universes within the mind of the all. Now, millions and millions of universes, to me as a physicist, this is talking about the multiverse. This is talking about, the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, that there are so many universes. They're not just this universe that we're talking about. There are many. So then, who are we? What are we? Where do we fit within this mind of the all? Well, we could say that we are also part of that. We are one with that, because everything that comes to be comes from that intention, that original intention. And so this intelligent energy, eternal essence, eternal being, pure awareness, these are other ways that we can talk about this. Who we are is that. We are not these physical bodies. So these bodies are like rental vehicles. Our intelligence, our pure awareness, spirit, whatever you want to call it, came here through eons and eons and eons of journey and is here on this earth for a short experience. And we pick up these rental vehicles called bodies. Who cares who engineered these bodies? They're just here for us to borrow them for an amount of time so that we can have an experience here at this dimension. And I want you to understand that there's so much more going on than just the physical. And so where are we, right? We might get the impression that we are here, that we're here in this physical body, we're here in this room. But in the Hermetic teachings, they say that you are dwelling in the infinite mind of the all, and your possibilities and opportunities are infinite in both time and space. Infinite, right? So let's start stretching our mind to those infinite possibilities beyond just what we perceive with these limited rental vehicles called bodies, because these are very limited. Just, as an example, you have what we see, right? What we see in the visible light spectrum, right? That rainbow spectrum that we see, that is 1% of the electromagnetic spectrum that our scientists are even aware of. Are we alone? This is another question that has been asked many, many times throughout history. And in the Hermetic teachings, they say that there are beings that even in our own little solar system, there are regions and planes of life higher than ours, and beings who, compared to which we earthbound mortals are as the mere slimy life forms that dwell on the ocean's bed when compared to man. There are beings that have powers and attributes higher than man has ever conceived of the gods possessing. So, no, we're not alone. But is that it? Are we just like these slimy little life forms compared to these great beings that are out there in the realms of the universe? Well, not yet, not quite, no. Because they also say, yet we also, these beings were just as us and even lower, and we will be even as they and higher still, because this is our destiny, to become even greater, right? And because of this, Hermes says that human beings are a great wonder, a living thing to be even worshipped and honored. And we change our nature into a god's. So it's saying that this immense possibility and potentiality is within us. And modern science is starting to discover and rediscover this immense possibility and potentiality within us. And in the ancient traditions, the mystery schools were all about how do we tap in to that potential? How do we awaken that godlike nature within us? How do we master ourselves? And this is not about hiding your light, guys. This is about learning to shine your light, learning to master all the different dimensions and elements and aspects of you. Because when you do, you become godlike, and nothing will get in your way at that point. You can become a human who is like a superhuman, let's say, all right? This is called the hero's journey in the Jungian tradition, or, like Joseph Campbell talked about. And so Hermes also, I don't have the quote here, but Hermes also says that humans were ordained to become greater or better than the gods with a little g. And that's because we have these two natures. We have this immortal and this mortal, this eternal essence, this spiritual essence, and this physical essence. And because of those two natures, we actually are here on a journey of discovering how to transcend that duality, how to learn from the opposite poles, how to become even greater by spanning the full spectrum of possibilities and densities. And so how do we do that, right? Ordained in this sense, we were ordained to become greater. is initiated. Ordained means to be initiated. And this is where the mystery school traditions initiated and trained people how to tap into that. So this is where I find that things like personal alchemy and the Kabbalistic tradition can come in, because they give us a sense of what can we do? How do we do it? It's very, the Kabbalistic tradition, the Kabbalah means to receive. It refers to an oral tradition, but the word also can be to accept and to reveal. And so it is these ancient mysteries that are revealed, these wisdom teachings that are revealed to us about who we are. It is ultimately the study of life itself and how we can master this life. Now, in the oral tradition, see, so many of the ancient wisdom teachings were not handed, they were not inscribed. Some of the stories might have been inscribed, but most of them were not written down. They were passed down orally. And the things that were written down, you had to have the oral tradition, the oral teachings, to decode and understand those things that were written. So much of the ancient traditions were an oral passing on of stories, mythologies. But the word myth, the original meaning, now today we think of myth as a false story, like a fairy tale. But the original meaning of the word myth was a story told by word of mouth that was considered to be sacred and true. Your true self actually has like 22 galactic emanations, galactic beings, galactic lives on 22 different stars and planets. So now we can think of, okay, you know, these extraterrestrials, maybe they're related to us. Not just biologically, but metaphysically. Maybe we are connected to them. Maybe that's why they visit us too. Maybe, just something to consider. But this isn't all. Not only do you have 22 emanations out there from the great central sun out into the universe, exploring, maybe one of them is on, Sirius, and maybe one of them is out on Jupiter, and maybe one of them is out at, I don't know, Arcturus or something. And then they all reflect their light back to each other as well. So in the Sefer Yetzirah, it talks about aligning the 22 around a sphere and connecting every one with every other one. And it forms this image here that we call the 231 gates. So these all, they receive their light from the great central sun at the center, but then they also reflect their light back to the great central sun, as well as back to all the others that their light can be reflected to. And it forms this interconnected, quantumly entangled web of information that is like quantum, entanglement happens. This instantaneous flow of information that happens across, like non-locally. Space and time don't limit it. And so this mandala that we see here, this sacred geometric image, is something that is very central in the Sefer Yetzirah. And it says these 231 gates of knowledge, right? So you take the 22 Hebrew letters, you align them around the sphere, and arrange them all together where they connect with every other one. And these are gates of knowledge. So your true self is out there gathering knowledge from the cosmos, through the archetypes, through the rays of creation, the foundation of all things. And then they reflect back to each other. And so we have these quantumly entangled galactic lives. How many of you have ever felt a sense of connection to galactic beings, and maybe even had like a dream or a past life recall or something where it was like, I was out there from the stars at one point? How many of you have ever had that kind of an experience? A few of you? I think more of you probably than are willing to raise your hands because you may not remember it yet, but as you awaken, you will. And that's probably why you're here, why you're even interested in topics like what you're hearing about this weekend. So here we are, one of these 22 emanations is here on Earth. And so let's come down to Earth now. And here we have these rays of light coming to us from all these other star systems that our true self has some galactic emanation on. And they're all feeding information to us here on planet Earth. And so Earth is receiving all these broadcasting stations from the universe as well, and there's information contained within that. And what we can call, for lack of a better term, we're going to call it our higher self, to distinguish it from our true self that's on the great central sun. We're going to call it our higher self. Now, our higher self is here overseeing our experience on this earth, right? So it is the ray that comes from the great central sun to this earth, and then also it's receiving information from the other 21 planets or stars that your other emanations are on. And so your higher self is here overseeing all these experiences of our self here on earth. Now, it then takes all that information from those other 22 archetypes and then emanates it onto this earth plane as well. And this is where it starts to get kind of trippy. If it's not already trippy for you, it's gonna get more. Because now your higher self isn't just overseeing you, your higher self is overseeing 22 versions, 22 parallel lives. Each of those parallel lives is colored by a different archetype. Like you could be the scientist in one parallel life, you could be the king or the queen in another, you could be the bum on the street in another, you could be a drug addict in another. You have all these different archetypal lives that you're living out here just on Earth. And every one of those other 21 planets or star systems that you're in also have 22, right? So now we have 22 times 22, and you have this factorial combination of all these different experiences that are happening. So one way of thinking about this is like a movie. You have the Cineplex, and in that Cineplex, there's 22 different theaters going on, and each one of them is playing a different movie. And this is something that I do talk about as well in my mystery teaching series in season 1. And in this, so you have 22 different movies going on. Now your higher self is sort of in the central control room that is playing the different movies and so forth, and watching them all at once. And redirecting, it's a live kind of interactive movie versus just a static movie. So it's redirecting and directing and sending out this information. But your personality is sitting in one of those theaters. And you're watching yourself on that screen, and you're getting very caught up in the drama that particular character is going through in that movie. You know how we can do that sometimes when we go to a movie and we get really caught up we know it's a character on screen, but we emote with them, we might root for them, we might despise them, depending on the character. And so it's like we got so focused on just watching this one movie that we forgot that we're at the movie theater for a time. And you also forgot that you are both the director and the main actor of that movie, and you kind of forgot your lines. So we forgot the script, but we already wrote it here. And sometimes because of that, we get a bit, blinded by our getting caught up in the drama of this physical life. And it can be a bit scary at times because we forgot the lines. And so because of this blinding of our multidimensionality, we get into the situation where we think this is it, right here. This is all there is to me. But this is not. This is the most minuscule part of who you are. And what we need to do is get back into that control room where we can remember and start to see the many parallel lives that are happening, the many archetypal experiences. And could it be possible that if this is happening all simultaneously, and their timelines could be now, they could be past, they could be future. From the higher self's perspective, the timeline isn't so important. And could it be then that maybe what some people call past life recalls could be some of these? They could be emanations, parallel lives. We're our higher self, and then our true self is having these infinite experiences in the universe all at once. Now, when we can start to get into the movie central control room, get into that perspective of the higher self, see all the 22, the goal is to then merge them into one. And when we say merge them into one, is to live a multidimensional life. Like you start to wake up. You, in this one life, you become all of those 22 archetypes. you become more like the superhero. You become more multi-talented, diverse. You start doing many different things, living 10, 22 lives in one, and you start having a really fun, adventurous, and exciting life. Very empowered, knowing that you're the center of your creation. And this begins a journey of an adventure. They call it the hero's journey, is merging the 22 into one. And that's something I share in a form or a version of it in season 4 of Mystery Teachings. Now, when we move on from this journey, the Hermetic teachings say that you shall then go on and on to higher and still higher planes for eons upon eons of time, because this universe is your home, and you shall explore its furthest reaches before the end of time. So this life isn't it. This is just one stop on a journey through eternity to rediscovering our infinite potential and multiple opportunities. Now, one of the points to this all is that we already are galactic beings. And we don't need to be in so much awe of like them out there. One of the greatest beings in the entire universe to be in awe of is right in here. And you just need to remember that. Just tap into that. The most important place to focus is here. So how do we reawaken to our galactic potential? How do we reawaken to that fullness, the awareness of who we really are?